Welcome, everybody, to the newest podcast in the network here. This is PNW Prop Stars, the only Seahawks-only gambling show in the multiverse. Man, I am fired up to bring this to the flock and beyond. And let's not delay. Let's welcome in our guests right away. We'll get to the how-to and what the heck we're doing here. I'm gonna let youth lead out, and let's start with the Princetonian of parlays himself, Mr. Wilson Khan, coming all the way in somewhere in España in Spain right now. Wilson, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I can't tell you my current location because I've got a few bookies on my tail. But yeah,
very nice.
Thanks for getting up early, guys. Looking forward to getting this show on the road. Not a lot of props today. That's all right. We'll still have some fun.
That's okay. We're going to explain the show and introduce the show. It's a pilot. You know, the pilot is like, who are the characters? What's going on here? What's the arc? Who's going to fall in love in season 3? Like all those things. You got to start to see the breadcrumbs laid out. And that's what we'll do today. And helping us do that, of course, our man, the money line rainmaker from Montana, Adam Emmert, up nice and early with his coffee. What's up, man?
Hey guys, you know that I do love you both very dearly because I am up at the butt crack of dawn for me. And I hate mornings. I think they're aptly titled. They're a state of mourning. So I am here to be with you guys. And I'm really looking forward to having about 10,000 questions I've ever had about gambling because none of that makes sense to me. Answered finally by you two fine gentlemen. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And like, we're excited to have everybody out there laying the lumber with us. You know, whether you want to just kind of play along, whether you want to put some real money on some of the things we'll be dropping throughout the season, you know, that's up to you. You could do what you want to do there. And for our sake, I think the quick, origin story on this thing was that simply, the gambling market. I was looking at some data yesterday. Look at me diving into the data. It's like a $90 billion market as of like this year. And it's just exploding. It's insane. So we're like, hey, what if we did a show that was, yes, we're going to give our gambling takes, but they're going to be Seahawks game specific. Because like we know this team, I don't know about you guys, I know this team a heck of a lot better than I do, say the Indianapolis Colts, right? It's like, I don't know what's going on there with the tight end matchup versus a particular opponent. But with the Seahawks, this is kind of what we do. So we could take our knowledge, parlay it, if you will, and then hopefully make a little scratch, have some fun, and also give another way to analyze the game through like these micro matchups that might come out in the props and the over-unders and the money lines we might be taking and why we're taking them. So super fired up to do all that. And also, guys, before we do dive into this week's show and start looking at the Steelers game coming right up, want to remind folks that please, go ahead, subscribe wherever you got ears to the podcast. So just search Seahawkers Podcast. You'll find it there. YouTube is growing like a weed in a good way. So youtube.com/Seahawkers Podcast. Every time we go live, you subscribe, you hit the bell. We're doing a lot of live shows this year. So please do that as well. And of course, getintheflock.com if you want to become a patron of the show. If you don't like ads, if you like getting all the great perks, being in the Discord, being in the Facebook Ring of Honor, cleansing your Hawkra, getting Adam out of the mill, the whole thing already, that's the place to be. Getintheflock.com, a few bucks a month, and it gets you into some really cool stuff. And we appreciate all of it very much. All right, boys. So as we're looking at this first game, so hey, Adam, why don't we start with you, man, in the sense that you might have some questions, right? You're like, I just got on the FanDuel app. So as we lead out for the fans here in the flock, why don't you hit us with some of the questions that are percolating that you've been thinking about this morning?
Yeah. So it's thanks so much for having me go first because I am so versed in the gambling world. But I know this is going to sound silly, but I honestly don't understand the odds part of things in a lot of ways. So for example, I just downloaded the FanDuel app, but I don't know, 30 minutes ago and still trying to figure that out. But I think they had the Seahawks getting 3 points, right?
Correct.
And it was what? I don't know what the odds are because now I can't seem to find it.
I think it was minus 110 for getting 3, right?
Okay, there we go. All right. Perfect. So this is exactly where it starts for me. So I hear like Simmons talk about it on his podcast. He's like, oh, it's 10 to 1 odds or it's 15 to 1 odds. That I get. You bet $1. If you win, you get 15, right?
Right.
Is that how that works? Okay.
Yep.
What the catfish is that minus 496.3 or whatever the heck it is? Like, I don't understand that.
Wilson, why don't you take the mathematics here, my man?
Yeah. So for example, minus 110, all of those things are just a measure of what your payout would be based on a $100 bet. So minus 110, that means that if you put down $110, you're winning 100. So your total payout will be 210. And that's the case anytime you see a minus. For example, the Steelers, I know we'll probably talk about this, but DraftKings has them at minus 145 for this first game. So that means if you bet on the Steelers, if you put $145 on the Steelers to win, you'd win $100 and your total payout would be 245. And it's the opposite for when you're using plus. The plus number is it's the underdog. So this is you don't see this all the time on spread, especially in the preseason, just because it's like, who knows? The book doesn't really want to bet on one side of the spread or another there. For example, the Seahawks are plus 125 according to DraftKings for the Steelers game. So that means if you put down $100, you win 125, and then your total payout is 225.
I'm starting to make sense there for you, Adam. So it's there's a lot there. But I think the major takeaway for folks like yourself who are kind of new to it, or anybody who's new to it, the point spread is usually going to get you basically back to even, right? And then like minus 110 that's the house's take, that 10 on either side. That's why it's like Steelers -3, minus 110, Seahawks +3, minus 110. Guess what? The house makes 10 regardless, even if the bets were dead 50-50, FanDuel's making their money. And then as you progress down the money line, so money line is without the spread. So money line is say no points either way, but your odds are going to fluctuate. So you'll make more or make less depending on if you're the the favorite or the team receiving points essentially. And a nice way to look at it too, it's because it's like they do kind of tricky because usually you're not thinking, okay, I'm going to lay 110 to win 100. Usually in your brain you're like, I'm going to lay 100. You're not thinking about laying 110. So like a good example would be, I have a prop later that I'm going to bring up that's minus 112, and $100 bet would pay $89.30. So just, there's some math to do there as well. Because again, I think humans, we're not usually like, oh yeah, I'm going to lay 112. Probably not. You're probably going to lay 100 or 10 because that's how we're just wired to think that way. So it's a little bit of a, you kind of got to do the math. And there are nice little calculators online there as well. So, all right, Adam, that's some good foundational stuff there. Any other, questions like that could help us get going, you and the viewers going?
Hey, that was a great start for me. So basically, negative means that's how much you would pay to win $100, and positive means that's how much you would get if you bet $100.
Bingo. You said that precisely. That's exactly it. Awesome. All right. So
I'm an expert. I'm winning $1,000 today.
That's it. And then as a show on PNW Prop Stars, what we're going to do is we're going to keep track of our own habits throughout the year. We'll put it into spreadsheets. And really what's happening is the first preseason game, there's not too many props to actually bet on for this game. They're just not out there. So, we'll go through some of our favorite bets for the game. We'll go through some season-long bets that we happen to like in this first episode. But as the season progresses and we get to week 1 versus the Broncos for the real deal Monday Night Football, then we'll kind of have a way that we three can compete against each other so we can be crowned the PNW Prop Star for the week. And of course, you should be playing at home, telling us what you're taking, what you like, so that maybe I guarantee somebody out there is going to be better than we three probably every single week. But the way I thought about it, fellas, was this nice little function of $31. Let's say we had $31, whether or not you decide to put real money in there or not. $31 a week for Bam Bam himself, right? We honor Bam Bam. And then we say, okay, what's our 3 favorite bets that we're going to place this week? Whatever those are, $10 a pop. And then for $1, what's our Fail Mary? What's our Fail Mary attempt that's got to have really big odds? I was thinking plus 1,200 this way, bet $1 or higher, bet $1, win 12, kind of a nice number for our Seahawks, Hawkera that is. And then let's see how we do week in, week out. And we can kind of track each other, do a little trash talking. And like I said, I think the more fun part too will be seeing folks in the flock, seeing what they thought were their favorite bets of the week and how we compare against them. So we won't be able to do that until week 1 of the real season because there's not enough bets to lay right now prop wise, but that's what folks could look forward to. Folks, Wilson, how you feeling about the gameplay and any things you would tweak about that? What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I'd also like to add that if you use my advice and win a bet, I do have a finder's fee. So if that happens, DM me on Twitter. I'll send you my Venmo name. I don't really think I probably want to give that out on a podcast necessarily. So just keep that in mind, and I'll probably track you down if you don't kick back a little bit, because there are only going to be a handful of people putting money on Colby Parkinson props. So
that's it. That sounds like a Fail Mary prop for week one right there, which is awesome. But you got to give, right, folks? So if you are getting the benefit, hey, Adam, value for value, right? If people are making some scratch, hey, if they want to kick back a little bit to the show and to the become a patron or whatever, make a donation. Heck, we ain't saying no to that, right?
That's exactly right. And now you know that Wilson is a heavy hitter, and he's going to come and take your kneecaps if you make a bunch of money and don't kick it back to him. So make sure you give that value back to Wilson. Otherwise, you may not walk again. Just so you know.
Just so we're all on the same page here. Like who's the real kingpin here? It is Wilson. All right. So we got this game coming up versus the Steelers at the field formerly known as Heinz Field. I'm not pronouncing their new thing. I don't even know what it is. It's horrible. It's terrible. They should be ashamed of themselves. And I hope they keep the big ketchup bottles up there because it's kind of fun. And okay, so looking at these real quickly, again, we're not going to have too many things to go into, but Vegas has it as Seahawks -3 on, with the spread. And then I saw the money line.
+3.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Correct. Seahawks getting 3, I should say. And I saw the money line on FanDuel this morning as Hawks to win +140. So Adam, starting with you, any of those that are hitting you that you'd want to, lay a little something into?
I would stay away from that like it was the plague or monkeypox or whatever. I wouldn't touch any of those. I understand that there's some people that they like to have that juice even in the preseason, right? Put a little money out there. Good luck predicting what a score in a preseason game is going to be. No thanks. I'm good on that one. I'll save my fictitious money on those two. But if I were to go with one, I'd probably take the 3 points rather than go with the money line, I think. Just because it just would help, considering that you have no idea what kind of offensive output we're going to get. I don't know. Maybe Jacob Eason puts up 45 points in the fourth quarter. Who knows? That would probably be my thought process and way of going about it.
Well, that's a conservative start, but that's okay because, like you said, how the heck can you predict Geno Smith is starting? Cool. Drew Lock is going to play at some point. So at least, and probably at some point, how much of those dudes we get, no friggin' idea. Right. But Wilson, anything standing out for you from the, the mundane bets that we're allowed to place for this upcoming Steelers game?
Yeah, I don't love the spread just because it's a little bit unpredictable, but I do have a nugget on the money line. The Steelers have won 11 straight preseason home games. So I would take them on the money line, especially considering that where I have it just checked like an hour ago, it's at -145, which is, it's not terrible. And it's not massive risk considering how good they are. That being said, as you mentioned, it's no longer Heinz. I believe it's Acrisure Field. You might want to censor that for any Steelers fans.
Yeah, those should become catfishes for the rest of the time. Anytime we say Acrisure, it's catfish just because it shouldn't be spoken. It's horrible. So.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, while the Seahawks have gotten pretty good on the road as of late, they suck on the road in the preseason. They're 1-5 since 2018 on the road in the preseason. So I like the Steelers money line. The over-under is right now is at 33. It keeps going down. It was at like 37.5, I think, earlier this week, which was really attractive. 33. I don't know if I feel great about that, but the Seahawks underhit in all 3 games last year in the preseason. So it's worth a thought. But if I was going to put money on one thing here, I'd probably go with the money line.
Okay, so Wilson's breaking the rules straight away. It's okay in the preseason, folks. We will allow a money line bet against our Seahawks in the preseason. That once we hit week 1, week 2, that we can't speak these things into existence. We can't bet against our own team.
Clinton. I don't have a choice.
Yeah, well, there are not that many bets this week. There was one that's intriguing to me. Now, you just laid out the reasons to not take that bet. However, whenever I'm betting, and like you said, Adam, this is such a crapshoot, right? So if it's going to be a crapshoot, well, then I want to crap to the bigger payout and see if we can get a little lucky here. There's a particular bet. They call this like the 4-way. Once you're inside the app there, it was like 4-way score or something like that. You have to hit the window, so you got to hit the right window. If the Seahawks win between 1 and 13 points, so whatever, they win the game by a little bit, essentially, the odds go to +200. I don't mind that bet. lay $10, whatever your denomination is, lay 10 to win 20 in a game, in a preseason game where it's like, I don't really care what Vegas says. Flip a coin. Flip a freaking coin. It's not, I don't think it's -3 +3. I really don't. I think it's more of a 50-50 proposition because who the heck knows? So if that's my mindset and I think it's 50-50 to begin with, well, then I could make the logical leap of what are the chances if the Seahawks win, it's not a blowout. They don't win by 2 touchdowns in the preseason. Well, I can make that leap as well. So between 1 and 13, I'm getting double my money. So I'm happy to put down $10. If they happen to win, I'm sitting there with a $20 payout. That feels pretty good. We get a Hawks W. We win in a certain window, and I'm sitting there, 100% richer on my bet, which I don't mind.
I like that, Clinton. One thing I do want to clarify from my previous comments is that I'm not actually betting against the Seahawks. I'm just betting against Geno Smith because I'd like him to fail horribly so we can at least see Drew Lock. Because I'm getting the sense that Drew Lock could, switch bodies with Patrick Mahomes in this training camp and we'd still start Geno. So
I hope that's not the case. Adam, we were talking about that the other day, that it's like, Pete's still like, Geno's doing everything he's supposed to do. Geno's doing great. Gambling aside for a second, Adam, do you think it's a bit of a facade that Pete is saying what he has to say? Or do you think that's really what Pete thinks right now?
I think Pete is a super risk-averse human being when it comes to the passing game. I mean, he is a disciple of Bud Grant, right? And I think his saying was back in the day, 3 things can happen on any pass play, and 2 of them are bad. And that's how Pete Carroll looks at things. So Geno is a known quantity for him. He has seen him for 3 years, and I think he is very comfortable with the idea that Geno can come in and just not screw it up. I mean, he looks at turnovers more than anything in Pete Carroll's brain, right? Yeah. 5 touchdowns to 1 interception over those 3 games that he started. To Pete, that's pretty good. And he's pretty excited about that, I think. And I think come hell or high water, he's going to want to start Geno week 1. I really do. Ugh. And it's going to be interesting to see how long Geno can hold on to the job at that point. But I think Drew Lock would have to do just exactly like Wilson said, basically be possessed by Patrick Mahomes throughout training camp just to have a shot at this point, because he seems to be outperforming Geno. And it's kind of a shame that he may not get really a fair shake throughout this preseason.
Yeah, and even then, I think Pete would still criticize Patrick Mahomes for being too much of a gunslinger, So.
Yeah, that's as close to a derogatory term that Pete's going to throw out there. Is like, oh yeah, he's a gunslinger. It's like, oh, every time I hear that, I'm like, I know what you mean by that, Pete, and stop that he likes to take a shot or two. And the funny part is, like, as if Russell Wilson wasn't. Russell Wilson, 75% of his throws are outside the freaking numbers, 75%, and downfield moonshots. Like he wasn't the Brett Favre gunslinger, but that's because he didn't use the middle of the field for the most part. Like, so he was a different type of gunslinger, and Pete seemed to be okay with that, I guess, to an extent, right? Except for then you get the Dallas Cowboys playoff game where we just run the ball for no good reason, never throw. And hence Wilson's no longer with us. All right, boys, that's really all we could cover from, I think, the game perspective, because there's no other bets to lay from the Steelers Seahawks perspective. So let's talk about some season-long bets that we kind of like. So a nice segue here. We're talking about Coach Carroll. So I'll go out of the gate first. I was looking at this one. This one's pretty interesting to me. I'll give a little pop quiz real quick. Pop quiz. What has Coach Pete Carroll never won yet? What hasn't he won?
The Congressional Medal of Honor?
He has not won that as far as I know. That's correct. Other things that are, let's narrow the aperture and think more NFL awards, end of year NFL awards for coaches.
Offensive rookie. Yeah, no, I'm going to go coach of the year.
There it is. Look at the big brain on Wilson there. Yeah. Coach of the year. He's number 1 coach of the year. And believe it or don't, you could bet on that. And yes, we're not tracking our Fail Marys and things like that this week. We'll do that during week 1. But to give you a flavor of this, Coach Pete Carroll is plus 5,000 to win Coach of the Year. So you could put $1 on it and win 50. You could put $10 on it to win 500. This is the type of primordial soup that if they are to make the playoffs, let's say they go 10-7, second place in the division, and we get our poop in a group and we're making noise down the stretch, that would qualify him to be like, all right, you're on the podium. You have to be in the top 3 discussion for coach of the year if that plays out. I realize the likelihood is small. That's why it's plus 5,000. But fellas, plus 5,000. Pete, Clay, Carroll, Peter Clay Carroll, coach of the year. What do you say?
So is this one of those that you can only bet for it to happen? Can you bet against it to happen? Is that possible?
You probably could find those on. I don't think you can online. Probably have to call a guy Sal, and Wilson's gonna know in the alley. And right. You're gonna pay a lot. You're not gonna pay a lot to win a little. So yes.
Right. But that's free money. That's free money because there is no possible way Pete Carroll wins coach of the year. None. 0%. Because the media has already buried the Seahawks for this year, and they're going to play in a tough division. I think getting to 10 wins is about the most optimistic, realistic thought that you can have regarding their season. And even if they get to that 10 wins, we still have a coach who coaches in South Alaska that nobody cares about. And the national media doesn't like Pete Carroll in terms of him as a football coach. They like him, the personality. They like the story that he's 750,000 years old and that he can still run down the field, but they can't stand the way that he plays football. So I think that 5,000 is what you get if you bet $1. It should be closer to like 25,000.
It's 5,000 to 1 if you bet 100, right? So that's that. So it's if you bet $1, you're in line to win 50. Bet $10, it's $500. So, yeah. But you're saying use that money elsewhere is the message from Adam. How about you on that one, Wilson? Any takes? Are you feeling similarly?
I think I kind of agree about the media perspective. Like Pete Carroll, he's pretty handsome for a guy in his 70s, but he's not sexy in the sense that he's playing old school football. And if you look at the last 5 coaches of the year, 4 of them are guys under 50. McVay, of course, Matt Nagy. Wow, that was really like a
whoops. Yeah.
Wow. And then you got Stefanski in 2020 and Vrabel in 2021. And the only guy who broke that up is John Harbaugh, who I find to be a much better coach than Pete right now. So if it's that kind of odds, that's a $1 bet for me. I'm not risking 10 on that.
There you go. Well, that's the Fail Mary bet, right? So 1 to win 50, not bad. All right. So strong notes from you guys and a little bit of logic around why not, and a lot of emotion around why not as well, but well played. All right. So Wilson, how about, do you have any season long ones that have been percolating lately for you?
Well, I actually managed to find a preseason long bet on the Seahawks, and it's on the quarterback competition that we can't stop talking about, and for good reason. It's to see who's the starter week 1. And as of yesterday, I think this was on DraftKings. I might be incorrect about that, but we have Geno Smith minus 175 and Drew Lock at plus 135.
Wow.
And I got to say, I want Geno on that. I think it could be a lot worse on those odds. And I think they're giving Lock probably too much credit. Don't know Pete very well. I got to go with Geno there. I feel pretty good about that. I mean, it's not a Fail Mary by any means, but I feel like I'd feel pretty good about taking Geno on that one.
Interesting bet though, Adam. Any takes on the host season versus the OG Geno?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid bet. I don't think that there's a probable path for Drew Lock to be the week 1 starter. I just don't. He's going to have to play out of his freaking mind because listen to Pete in his last presser when he named Geno the starter for the Steelers game. He's like, oh yeah, Drew, he's been great. He's done all this stuff. And he's made one bad throw. It was right out of the gate. We got it corrected, but yeah, no, still Geno.
And you'll notice that Carroll brings up that throw every single time.
Every single time. Yeah.
Because he hasn't actually gotten over it yet. That he has nightmares. He has nightmares about week 1, Drew Lock throwing over the middle and Justin Simmons just taking it to the house first play of the game. So yeah, you know what? And he was so nonchalant too. He's like, oh yeah, Geno's going to be starting this Saturday, by the way. Like it was a given. It was already known that he was going to start. And by the way, it seems like from all accounts, Drew Lock wasn't far and away better in the mock game, but it seemed like he played very well. He played solidly, and things actually got worse for him at practice. He's not playing with the ones at all anymore, even though he was on occasion before. So just to double down on that, I really do think this is a pretty good bet.
it'd be very interesting to watch that line over the next, like after the Steelers game. What happens then? What does Vegas think happens at that point? Let's check back in on that if you can. Next time we get together, that'd be super cool. All right, Adam, any particular season long bets that have been like, ooh, this one, tickles you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk a lot about the quarterback competition and all that stuff, the passing game, because we're all obsessed with passing. But we all know that this is going to be a run first team this year. And I was looking at the rushing props here, and Rashaad Penny, the over under on rushing yards is 799.5. So basically gets 800 yards. That's an over, right?
That's correct. That's how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The odds are minus 108. So that one to me is a no brainer. It's a no brainer. It's the over for Rashaad Penny. And I know the injury history and I know all that stuff. But if you think about it, last year, 750 yards in like 5 games? Even if Rashaad Penny only plays half the season, he easily gets over 800 yards because he's going to have the opportunities. He's going to have a couple of those big games. I love Rashaad Penny on the over.
I play a lot of fantasy football too, which Adam, I know you love. And in general, they always talk about opportunity is more important than talent. And I think Penny's got both, but it's just like, who's the dude getting the ball? Right? Who's the dog? And Penny's going to get a lot of touches. I'd be shocked if he's not consistently in the 15 to 20 touch, range per game, at least for the first half of the year, barring injury, of course. And if he's doing that, well, his career long APY shows that bet should hit. That bet should hit. So I think it's a pretty fun one too. What about you, Wilson?
Yeah, I think I like that, especially at the minus 108 number. I have questions about his health. I don't really want to say one way or another whether he's going to be healthy. A, I'm not a doctor. B, I don't want to jinx him. I think should he stay healthy, I think that's pretty much a lock. No pun intended, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing is I don't even think he has to stay perfectly healthy. Like he doesn't have to play the full season. I mean, he could miss 6-7 games and still get to there pretty easily.
We will see quickly what the plans are for Ken Walker, and like how much of it he's getting as well. However, it doesn't matter. It's the NFL. Like, sure, your other back is going to get 30% of the touches regardless. That the days of the true bell cow are pretty much behind us. And it's an intriguing bet and it feels low, right? It feels like, yep, he should hit that. So we'll watch that one. I think it's a nice season long one.
Here's the thing about the Walker aspect of it. I understand Ken Walker is amazingly talented. He's been lighting up camp and all that stuff. But we've seen over the years when Pete Carroll has had a rookie back, even if he's in love with them, it doesn't matter. Like he's going to start the veteran and he's going to play him a lot more because they have to show that they are excellent in pass protection before they can get on the field. It's one of the most overlooked things that people look at when it comes to running backs. In Pete Carroll, he has to have his running backs be amazing in pass protection. And it seems to be something that has a high learning curve for these guys coming out of college.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. The pads are now on, and I think we're going to get a heavy dose of Ken Walker against the Steelers. And let's see, can he pick up dudes who are going to be, for the most part, second teamers, right? Second stringers, and can he pass protect and get and earn those third down instances? Because really, they're not pennies either. Like those are probably not pennies. He's probably not the third down back either there. So we'll see if it's just going to be Travis Homer season because he can pass block really well. So will be intriguing. We'll be tracking that all year. All right, boys, let's do one more. If we have one more each season long bet, and then we could call it a wrap on episode 1. Wilson, why don't you start with this one?
Well, this is kind of going against what Adam was saying. I actually really like the Ken Walker bets, and I think it's because he's going to be really useful in the passing game. Played in a pro-style offense at Michigan State. Didn't really actually get a lot of targets, but by all accounts, it seems like he's very capable in the passing game. And I think when the Seahawks get behind, which we will be a lot this season, we're just not going to be able to hand off the ball, 5-6 times a possession like we'd like to. So I think seeing Ken Walker get involved in the passing game is going to be something to keep an eye out for. And for that reason, I've put down Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 1,000 for Ken Walker. I'm not putting 100 on that. I don't feel amazing about it, but I think it's a decent, $10. Why not root for Ken Walker? Seems like a really talented player. So, and you know what? That's actually only the That's the sixth best odds, I think, for offensive rookie of the year. I don't think there's really a clear-cut favorite. Actually, Kenny Pickett has the best odds, which I guess, did Mac Jones win that last year? I think he did.
Feel like he did. I don't know.
You know what? Kenny Pickett could probably be as good as Mac Jones.
Kenny Pickett might not play at all. Kenny, Trubisky might
I guess
very well
we'll find out more about that on Saturday. But yeah, I'm not in love with that bet. I don't hate it either.
Interesting one. And it's you're in the right position where that person could win a Roy, right? You get a lot of touchdowns. He gets the 5 yards and in carries and breaks a few and is dynamic, and the team wins a few more games than people expect. Coach Carroll wins Coach of the Year, the whole thing, right? The whole thing happens, and away you go. Kenneth Walker takes home the Roy with it as well. All right, Adam, let's flip over to you. Do you have any other season longs that were really hitting you?
Well, I was just looking here. I like Seahawks' first win of 2023. And they've got week 2 against San Francisco at plus 460. And
plus 460.
I dig that bet because honestly, if I'm putting money on it, like actual hard-earned dollars and everything, do I think they're going to beat the Broncos in week 1? No, I don't. I really don't. I think it's going to be a really rough go coming out of the gates. They're at home against Russell Wilson, all the emotion. I think that's going to be a really difficult game to pull off right out of the gate. So they lose week 1 in Seattle against Denver. And I think San Francisco is going to be a bit of a dumpster fire this year. I really do.
So.
If you just look at the history of them, they struggle the year after or the 2 years after they have a good season. Trey Lance, you hear reports coming out of camp that one day he had the worst practice he's ever had. And then the next is he had the best practice he ever had. And that's the thing with Trey Lance is he's going to be all over the map this year. And I think with the Niners and their struggles that are going to be coming forth this season, I like the Seahawks to get their first win in San Francisco against the Dirty Niners. And yeah, I'll take plus 460 along the way.
That's a hell of a line. I mean,
right.
Plus 460. I think maybe it's Seahawks bias, but I've always complained about this. The national media is always way, way too high on the 49ers.
Yep.
And what I always say is the Kyle Shanahan 49ers and the Pete Carroll Seahawks, they average the same finish in their season, and it's the wild card round. For the Seahawks, it's always losing there. And for the Niners, it's either Super Bowl, close, or bottom of the division. And this is one of those bottom of the division years. So I really like that bet.
Yeah, love the upside. Plus 460 is very tantalizing. And to remind folks from the math earlier, you bet 10, you win 46. You bet 100, you win 460. Again, I don't know about you guys. I'm not dropping Benjamins on all of these. However, a little $10 here, $5 here to for an upside of 460 is sweet. And you get the bonus that if we do beat the Broncos and your $5 or $10 goes away, well, then we beat the freaking Broncos. And that's kind of cool. So it's like, okay, that's fine. The money's gone. I don't care. We beat the Broncos and we can celebrate in a different way anyway. So I like that mental aspect of those kind of bets too. All right, I got one for us as well. So I was looking at the over under for total wins for the year. And this is one, Adam, specifically where that money line moves a lot. And of course it's a game, so we'll understand why. But Vegas says Seahawks over 5.5. You're only going to make, minus 135, right? So got to bet 135 to win 100, or you're betting 100 to win whatever that is, 65 or whatever. I don't love that. I don't love over 5.5 to only win that amount of money. I like bumping it up, taking an alt spread, an alt win total spread, going over 6.5. So now we're at 7 and 10 or better. And now you're paying me 130. So the $100 bet or the $10 bet, 100 wins 130. I think this team wins 7 games. I'm not saying it's a floor. Obviously, there's a bet here. They can win 3 games. I think they win at least 7. I think they win more than that personally. And with that, I'll move that needle a little bit and take that much larger upside there to gain the plus 130. So that's my final one for the season long is give me 7 wins and then pay me 130 for my 100.
That's a very interesting swing in odds over that one game, because if you would have asked me before you said what's the over under on their win total, I would have totally guessed 6.5. I feel like that's exactly right for this team, because I believe in Pete Carroll's tenure as Seahawks head coach, even with Tavares Jackson at quarterback,
right,
or an aging Matt Hasselbeck, they have won no fewer than 7 games in a season. And I believe that they'll get to at least 7 games this year. I really do. 7-8 wins feels exactly right for this team for me. And yeah, with the boost on the odds like that, heck yeah, man. I think that's a solid.
Nice. Love having the affirmation. Wilson, how do you feel about that one before we cut out?
Yeah, I think it's great to end our first show with all agreement here. I think that's a good bet. I think especially with the last place schedule, I think that's going to be super helpful just to get those bonus games, those bonus 2 games there against last place teams. So agree, man. All right. So hey, this was episode 1, fellas, of PNW Prop Stars. So hoping that the multiverse loves it and likes it and does all the things already. So remember, the easiest thing you can do is subscribe to the podcast, right? Go out there, subscribe to the pod wherever you do, got your ears out there, Seahawkers podcast. Remember, all the content's coming into one stream, and then there'll be different shows nicely titled for you, but all through the Seahawkers podcast this year as we expand the network effect of all these shows. YouTube, so darn simple, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Give it a like, hit the bell. We could beat those algorithms, and we really are starting to see that grow in some meaningful ways, which is super great. And if you really want to contribute, go to getintheflock.com, become a patron. All the levels are laid out there for you. And that way you can get ad-free listening and join us in the Discord, join us in the Facebook Ring of Honor and all the other reindeer games and giveaways that Brandon does every single week because he's freaking tremendous like that. The Pick'em League, the whole thing already. Wilson, where can folks find you? Where do you want them to find you? Well, again, like I said, I can't give you my location. There's certain people I don't want to find me at all. But yeah, my Twitter is just Wilson_Con. My last name is CONN, not like Genghis. No relation. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And like I said, kickbacks, Twitter DM, I'll get you my Venmo name and we'll get that all set up.
Hit him in the DM. And Adam, I don't think Adam wants to be found, but Adam, do you want to stay in your bunker in Montana and keep it at that?
Yeah, you nailed it, dude. There's a reason why I'm a hermit who lives off grid. You can't find me. You won't find me. So good luck with that.
Love it. All right. Find me out on Twitter at Clinton Bond. More importantly, find the podcast. Hope folks enjoyed the first episode ever of PNW Prop Stars. For Wilson and for Adam, may your Hawkra continue to be blessed and your pocketbooks. Go make some Scott Ole. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.